Not a lot of people want to talk about it because when you talk about it, you put a target on your back. And I think one of the first things I want to ask you is, how does someone stand up and do the right thing when they know that they're going to face great opposition when they do it?
What really lies beneath the shining facade of Rebecca and Rachael in Daughters of Daystar? Shocking secrets, hidden betrayals, and dark twists are finally coming to light. Fans are stunned as the true stories behind these sisters unravel, revealing a world far darker than anyone imagined. Prepare to dive deep into the mysteries, lies, and unexpected truths that will change everything you thought you knew about Daughters of Daystar. Rebecca and Rachael, two daughters from the prominent Lamb family, live lives that seem polished and perfect to the outside world. But beneath that shiny surface lies a world of pain, confusion, and difficult choices that few truly understand. Their struggles are deeply personal, complex, and full of emotional weight. Rachael, for example, appears to many as a woman living a peaceful life with her husband Joshua Brown, yet those who know her well understand that her reality is far more complicated. She is caught in a mental and emotional battle, torn between facing painful truths about her marriage and burying those truths to keep her life from falling apart. It's not simply denial, it's a survival mechanism, an attempt to protect her peace of mind and her sense of self. Rachael convinces herself that everything is fine, even when deep down she knows it's not. This coping strategy helps her maintain a fragile calm, but it's a temporary fix, masking a far more painful reality. She fears that facing the truth could break everything she has worked so hard to hold together: her relationship, her identity, and the stability she craves. This internal conflict traps her in a cycle of emotional strain. Will she continue living in this delicate delusion, or will the walls she's built eventually crumble, forcing her to confront the harsh realities she's avoided for so long? Rebecca's struggles are just as profound, but they take on a different shape. Raised in the spotlight as part of the Lamb family, known for their faith-based ministry and influence, Rebecca's life has been shaped by legacy and expectations. Her father, Marcus Lamb, founded Daystar, a powerful Christian media network that became a symbol of faith and family. Rebecca grew up admiring her father and embracing the values he taught: truth, integrity, and commitment to their ministry. But after Marcus's sudden passing, the family dynamic shifted dramatically. Her mother, Joni, took the helm of the ministry and made decisions that deeply unsettled Rebecca. Most notably, Joni's quick remarriage to Doug Weiss sparked fears in Rebecca that the family's unity and the ministry's integrity were at risk. Rebecca struggled to reconcile her love for her mother with her growing concerns over the direction things were headed. She felt sidelined and conflicted, torn between loyalty to her family and a desire to protect the values she believed her father had built their legacy upon. Rebecca's situation is made even more difficult by the pressure coming from all sides: family members, supporters of the ministry, and critics alike. Some urge her to speak out and fight for what she believes is right, while others push her to stay silent to maintain family harmony. This constant tug-of-war deepens her internal struggle and raises questions about her role within the ministry and the family itself. She wants to honor her father's memory, but increasingly feels that the ministry is straying from its original mission. Rebecca's story is one of courage and heartache, as she wrestles with the decision to stand up for truth, even when it might cost her everything she holds dear. Both Rebecca and Rachael's stories reveal a larger, more universal truth: that family and faith can be sources of great strength, but also great pain. When loyalty clashes with personal values, the result is often confusion, heartbreak, and isolation. Their struggles aren't just about family drama or public image. They are about confronting deep wounds, the fear of loss, and the challenge of finding one's own voice in the face of overwhelming pressure. In this world of secrecy and silence, speaking out feels dangerous. There's a real fear of backlash, of being cast out or misunderstood. For Rachael, maintaining her illusion is a way to survive emotionally, while for Rebecca, standing up for what's right feels like a lonely battle against a powerful system she grew up in. Yet both women represent resilience, whether through denial or defiance, as they navigate a path through uncertainty and pain. The stories of Rebecca and Rachael invite us to look beyond surface appearances and understand the hidden struggles many face behind closed doors. They remind us that courage isn't always loud or public. Sometimes it's the quiet fight to hold on to truth and integrity when everything around you seems to be crumbling. Their journeys show the difficulty of balancing love, loyalty, and honesty, and the high cost that can come with choosing one over the others. Ultimately, their struggles are a call to recognize the complexity of human relationships and the bravery it takes to confront the dark, hidden corners of family and faith. Rachel's story is one of deep emotional complexity, a journey marked by turmoil and a constant search for peace in the face of overwhelming challenges. At first glance, she appears to lead a normal life, sharing a marriage with her husband Joshua Brown and carrying on the routines that define most people's daily existence. But beneath this calm exterior lies a storm of doubt, fear, and painful contradictions that few truly see or understand. Rachel's struggle is not simply about the difficulties in her relationship. It's about the internal battle she wages every day to protect her sense of self and maintain some semblance of control over a life that feels increasingly fragile. Living in denial might sound like an easy choice, but for Rachel, it is anything but simple. It is a survival mechanism, a way to cope with realities so harsh and threatening that facing them head-on would shatter the very foundation of her world. She convinces herself that everything is fine, that her marriage is stable, and that the concerns voiced by others are exaggerated or misplaced. This delusion is not a conscious lie she tells to herself. Rather, it is an emotional shield designed to keep unbearable truths at bay. It allows her to function, to go through the motions of life without breaking under the weight of despair. But this fragile piece is a double-edged sword. The delusion protects her in the short term, but it also traps her in a dangerous cycle. The longer she lives in denial, the more distant she becomes from reality, and the harder it becomes to confront the truth. Rachel's fear of what might happen if she lets go of this illusion is profound. She knows that acknowledging the painful truths about her husband's behavior and the cracks in their marriage could mean losing everything she's built, her identity, her emotional stability, and the security she clings to. This fear keeps her locked inside a mental prison of her own making. Rachel's internal struggle is a constant push and pull between the need for peace and the need for truth. Every day presents the choice to either maintain the delicate balance of denial or to risk the chaos that could come with facing reality. This tension manifests as a heavy emotional burden, one that drains her energy and wears down her spirit. The weight of pretending everything is okay while feeling the opposite deep inside creates a profound sense of loneliness and isolation. Rachel feels trapped between two worlds, the world she desperately wants to believe in and the world she fears is closing in around her. This mental and emotional turmoil also affects how Rachel sees herself. Her sense of identity is wrapped up in the life she has chosen and the relationship she's committed to. The idea that her perception might be flawed or that her choices might have been misguided is almost unbearable. It challenges her core understanding of who she is and the life she has worked so hard to create. Accepting the reality would mean dismantling the narrative she has built about herself as a wife, a partner, and a woman. That is why the denial feels so necessary. It's not just about the relationship, but about preserving the very essence of her being. Yet, living in denial is not just an act of passivity. Rachel is actively engaged in sustaining this illusion. She blocks out uncomfortable signs, ignores warnings from loved ones, and dismisses feelings of doubt. This complicity deepens the tragedy of her situation. It's one thing to be deceived by another, it's another to choose to live in deception. Her actions, though unconscious, reinforce a harmful dynamic that prolongs her pain and delays any chance for healing. By enabling the false narrative, she sacrifices her mental health for a temporary sense of peace, but at a great cost. The emotional conflict Rachel experiences is also tied to a fear of vulnerability and loss of control. Facing the truth would expose her to immense pain, not only from the betrayal itself, but from the upheaval it would cause in every aspect of her life. The stability she clings to would crumble, leaving her to navigate an uncertain future. This fear of losing control over her own story and her family life makes her reluctant to break free from denial. The unknown feels more terrifying than the known suffering, and so she stays locked in her carefully constructed mental sanctuary. There is also a deep sadness woven throughout Rachel's journey. Those who observe her plight with empathy see a woman caught in a heartbreaking paradox. She desperately wants peace, but is unable to find it without facing her pain. The cycle of denial is both a refuge and a prison. Her story is one of missed opportunities for healing, not because she lacks the strength to change, but because the fear of change is overwhelming. The emotional weight she carries is a heavy burden that no one else can carry for her. Despite the profound sadness of Rachel's situation, there is an underlying sense of hope, a hope that one day she might break through the wall she has built around herself. The process of confronting reality, though terrifying, holds the promise of freedom and healing. The moment she stops living in delusion and begins to face the truth, she opens the door to reclaiming her life on her own terms. That moment is crucial, but it requires courage and support that Rachael has yet to fully embrace. Her story also raises important questions about the nature of coping and resilience. How do people protect themselves from pain when facing betrayal and broken trust? What keeps them from walking away, and what holds them in cycles of denial? Rachael's experience is a vivid example of how complex human emotions can be, and how survival sometimes depends on uncomfortable compromises. Her struggle reminds us that coping mechanisms, even when harmful, often arise from a place of deep human need. Ultimately, Rachael's emotional turmoil is about far more than just her marriage. It's about the struggle to maintain identity, security, and sanity when confronted with life-shattering realities. It's about the fear of losing everything that matters and the desperate hope that peace can be found without sacrifice. Rachael's journey is a powerful and tragic story of the human spirit's fight to survive, even when the cost is high. It challenges us to look beyond judgment and to understand the complex, often painful, choices people make in the name of love and self-preservation. Rebecca's story is one of deep conflict, caught between the powerful forces of family loyalty and personal integrity. Growing up in the public eye as part of the influential Lamb family, she was raised with strong values around faith, truth, and commitment. Her father, Marcus Lamb, was not just a parent, but a guiding figure, a man whose dedication to ministry and message shaped the family's identity and their place in the world. For Rebecca, those early lessons laid a foundation built on the belief that family means everything, and that loyalty to those you love is sacred. But when tragedy struck and her father passed away, the once solid foundation began to shake, and Rebecca found herself grappling with painful questions that challenged everything she thought she knew. After Marcus's death, the leadership of the family ministry, Daystar, passed to Rebecca's mother, Jonilamb. Almost immediately, Rebecca sensed changes that troubled her deeply. Joni's decisions, particularly her rapid remarriage to Doug Weiss, stirred unease in Rebecca's heart. To many, moving on after loss is part of healing, but Rebecca saw it differently. The swift remarriage felt like a betrayal of the mourning process and raised doubts about Joni's motivations. Was this move truly about love and rebuilding, or was it about consolidating power within the ministry? Rebecca's concerns were not just personal. They were about the integrity of a legacy built by her father and the future of the ministry that millions relied on. The tension between mother and daughter grew as Rebecca found herself increasingly marginalized within the family and the ministry she once expected to help lead. She had imagined a future where she would honor her father's work by continuing his mission, but instead, she felt sidelined and powerless. Joni's leadership style seemed to take a more unilateral direction, leaving Rebecca feeling like an outsider in her own family's story. This sense of exclusion was not just professional, it was deeply personal. The woman she once admired, her mother, was becoming someone she struggled to trust, and the warmth of family gave way to cold distance. Rebecca's battle was not just about family politics or ministry decisions. It was about her core values: truth, honesty, and loyalty. She was torn between protecting the family she loved and standing up for what she believed was right. Every decision Joni made, every move that seemed to betray the principles Marcus had instilled, chipped away at Rebecca's faith in the family unit. She wrestled with the idea that standing up for the truth might mean breaking apart the very bonds that held her world together. This internal conflict created a profound sense of isolation. Rebecca felt the weight of expectations from all sides. Some urged her to speak out, to fight for transparency and justice within the family and ministry. Others implored her to stay silent for the sake of family unity, to keep the peace even if it meant sacrificing her own beliefs. These opposing voices pulled her in different directions, making every choice feel like a loss. The pressure was immense. To speak up risked alienation and the destruction of relationships, while silence felt like betrayal of her own conscience. Rebecca's struggle highlights a universal and deeply human dilemma: the tension between loyalty to family and loyalty to self. It's the kind of conflict that forces a person to ask difficult questions. When does loyalty become complicity? When does silence equal acceptance? How do you stand up for truth without destroying the people you love? These are not simple questions, and Rebecca's story shows just how painful and complex the answers can be. Her journey was also a test of courage. Standing up against powerful family dynamics, especially those intertwined with faith and legacy, is daunting. Rebecca knew that challenging her mother and the ministry's leadership could result in estrangement and loss. Yet she also understood that protecting the integrity of her father's vision and the truth was a responsibility she could not ignore. This meant facing difficult conversations, enduring criticism, and risking the stability she once took for granted. Throughout this battle, Rebecca's faith played a complicated role. Raised in a deeply spiritual environment, her beliefs provided strength but also complicated her path. Faith encouraged forgiveness, patience, and unity, yet her conscience called for accountability and justice. Balancing these sometimes conflicting demands added another layer of emotional complexity. She prayed for guidance, seeking clarity in the turmoil, hoping for a way to reconcile her love for family with her commitment to integrity. Rebecca's experience also sheds light on the challenges many face within close-knit family systems, especially those with public or spiritual dimensions. The pressure to maintain appearances, to protect reputations, and to avoid scandal can stifle honest dialogue and create environments where difficult truths are suppressed. In Rebecca's case, these dynamics meant navigating a landscape where power, love, and fear were constantly intertwined. Her struggle was not just about personal grievances, but about the broader implications for those who depended on the ministry's message. She worried about the impact of compromised leadership on the community that looked up to the Lamb family for spiritual guidance. This sense of responsibility weighed heavily on her, reinforcing the urgency of her internal battle. Despite the hardships, Rebecca's journey is one of resilience. She continues to wrestle with these difficult issues, determined to find a path that honors her father's legacy while remaining true to herself. Her story is a powerful reminder that family loyalty and personal integrity often exist in tension, and navigating that tension requires immense strength and courage. In the end, Rebecca's battle is not just a family drama. It is a human story about the cost of truth, the complexity of love, and the difficult choices we face when the two collide. Her courage to confront these challenges, even when the path is uncertain and lonely, offers hope to others caught in similar struggles. It shows that standing up for what is right, especially within one's own family, is one of the bravest things a person can do. The story of Rebecca and Rachael is not just about two individuals caught in a family struggle. It unfolds against the backdrop of much larger themes that resonate far beyond their personal lives. At its core, their journey touches on corruption, courage, and the difficult process of breaking free from systems that no longer serve truth or justice. These themes weave together to create a powerful narrative about what happens when loyalty collides with integrity, and what it truly takes to stand up in the face of overwhelming opposition. Corruption is one of the darkest threads running through Rebecca and Rachael's experiences. It's not just about obvious acts of wrongdoing or scandal. Corruption here is subtle, insidious, and deeply embedded in systems built on power and control. Often, these systems start with good intentions, families, organizations, or institutions aiming to support communities and uphold values. But somewhere along the way, something shifts. The desire to maintain control and authority begins to overshadow the original mission. Transparency fades, accountability disappears, and those in power manipulate narratives to protect themselves rather than serve others. For Rebecca, corruption meant watching the ministry her family built become less about faith and more about consolidating power. She saw how decisions made behind closed doors undermined the very principles her father stood for. This was not just disappointing. It was painful. It meant that the trust and loyalty she had once placed in her family and their mission were now compromised. For Rachael, the corruption was wrapped up in personal betrayal, delusion, and emotional manipulation. It was about facing a reality where what she believed her marriage to be was crumbling beneath the surface, but the truth was being hidden, denied, or ignored. The power of corruption lies in its ability to confuse, silence, and trap people. It creates environments where speaking out is dangerous and conformity is rewarded. It makes victims question their own experiences, doubt their intuition, and isolate themselves. It's a slow poison that seeps into relationships, families, and communities, making it harder and harder to recognize the damage until it feels overwhelming. But the story of Rebecca and Rachael also shines a light on the opposite force: courage. Courage is the beating heart of their journey. Standing up to corruption, especially when it comes from those closest to us, requires extraordinary bravery. It means risking relationships, reputation, and sometimes personal safety. It means facing isolation and opposition from people who want to keep the status quo intact. For Rebecca, courage meant questioning her mother, speaking out against leadership decisions, and choosing truth over comfort. It meant the painful realization that doing what was right might mean losing family unity, or at least the version of family she had always known. For Rachael, courage came in recognizing the emotional walls she had built to protect herself were no longer sustainable. It meant confronting painful realities about her marriage and the man she had trusted. It was about deciding whether to continue living in denial or to face the truth, no matter how shattering. The courage to break free is never a single moment. It's a process of small steps, hard conversations, moments of doubt, and deep reflection. It requires the strength to sit with discomfort and uncertainty without retreating back into false peace.